If you are a Magpie fan, surrender or you'll die. We all follow the Sunderland.
Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland preview podcast ahead of our weekend game against Norwich City. A remarkable comeback, so Sunderland take all 3 points in South Wales as Dan Ballard, Daniel Neal and Joe Bellingham secured a stunning 3-2 win at Swansea City. But can we make it 3 wins from 4 against Norwich? Well, I hope so. But to let us know what to expect from this weekend's opponents, we do have a brand new debutant guest in the shape of Freddie from MyFootballWriter, also a Norwich fan. Freddie, how are you, mate? You all right?
No, I'm all good, Graham. No, it's lovely to be here and speak with you. How are you as well?
Not too bad, mate. No pressure, but the last Norwich guest we had was Simon Thomas from Soccer Saturday, so no pressure.
Okay.
He was crap. He was rubbish. Hated him. Never been invited back.
I hope he's not watching.
Yeah, no, I doubt it, sadly. Look, there's loads to go through, as there always is with the Championship, but we'll start with the most recent result and performance. Cheesed me off a little bit. You got beat 2-1 at home to high-flying Burnley. Could have done without that. How was the performance?
First half was very much a strong, typical home performance from Norwich City. They seemed like they were dominant. They were creating chances, scored within the first 65 seconds of the game. So that's always a dream start. Scored from a set piece, only the second time we've done that all season. So no, it seemed like the first half was very positive, and it was sort of very much, as I said just now, characteristic of Norwich at home. But then the second half came along, and I watched all of the second half and about the last 15 of the first half, and they just seemed to be switched off, very much on the back foot for all of it. Really didn't really get too much going forward, and even when they did, there just wasn't that sort of that final pass or that last bit of quality just to try and maybe kill the game off or even get ourselves back into the game. The 2 goals in which we conceded, Zian Fleming's goal, anyone who's seen it, it was a fantastic goal, 30 yards out, smashed it in the top corner, but comes down to just individuals not paying attention. It was just a quick free kick and everyone's still trying to set themselves, and Fleming has a good 15 yards of space to just smash the ball in the top corner. And the second goal is Borja Sainz, who is a quality player. Anyone who has seen his statistics knows that. But just again, a lapse of decision making, maybe a lapse of discipline. Ran forward with the ball, lost it. Burnley got up the other end. They score a goal, and then Burnley, a team who, including that game, have conceded 8 goals all season. If you are trailing to a team like that, you're probably not going to score. And Norwich didn't. They came very close at the end, but just lacked a bit of that determination and sort of a cutting edge really towards the end. And when they had the lead, they were on the back foot, and you could sense a Burnley goal was coming, and just through 2 lapses of concentration, Norwich threw the game away. And it's very much, once again, Norwich are the architects of their own downfalls. So who knows? Hopefully they can sort those errors out against another very strong Championship outfit in Sunderland. But if they're just going to have those little moments where they turn off, it could become a bloodbath at the Stadium of Light. And that's very much what I worry about, because I'm sure, as you know, and anyone who watches this knows, Sunderland are very much exceeding expectations, and they continue to do so. And they look a very, very dangerous side to come up against.
Best side in the league. I've said it since the start. Ahead of the podcast, what was weird was I feel like Norwich were like in and around us, and look, it's a tight league, I know that, and I looked and was like, oh, hang on, they're 12th. So I thought, look at the recent form. I know they've had a few games off, as you do. You look at your most recent opponent, and I thought, okay, 3 without a win. But then I noticed immediately, if you go in the past 5 games, you beat Plymouth 6-1, you beat Luton 4-2. There's 10 goals. Like, what's happening with Norwich at the minute? Because you've obviously not lost 3 games, sorry, you're winless in 3. But prior to that, you were like firing on all cylinders pretty much.
Just think, I don't know, I can't really blame it on the injuries we have anymore, because everyone's come back. I guess the easy thing to say is, we've had to play a lot of games in a packed league. But then again, there's teams in every league who have packed schedules, so you can't really blame it on that. I think the away form, of course, those matches in which QPR we lost and we were away from home, and that was dire. Portsmouth away from home, we draw 0-0, and again, just wasn't that good of a performance. And then Kenny McLean getting suspended because of something he did in the QPR match. Angus Gunn's now been done with a fine because of the QPR match. Maybe it's just sort of individuals where they are in terms of they know in which it's a tough period, and maybe they're having too many thoughts that are coming into fruition. That's the only thing I can really sort of see that I think maybe has affected this, because we have all of our players back. We are still trying to play really nice football under Torup, which had us in we were 7th in the league 12 matches ago. We were 4 points off top of the table. And now we've only got 11 points in those 12 matches that have followed, which just seems bizarre, because this team was flying high. Maybe they set the bar too high for themselves, but I can only really blame it on maybe there's just a few factors that, in terms of those suspensions, again, like McLean and now Gunn being hit with a fine from the FA and a bit of misfortune. I don't know if that maybe has affected the players and coaching staff a bit too much mentally, and thinking, oh, nothing's going our way. We're just unlucky. Nothing's working. And maybe it could be that. I can't really think of anything else in terms of, I can only really pin it on the fact Norwich aren't very good away from home. And then the Burnley match, as I sort of already alluded to, was just down to individuals that they just switched off. That simply was that. So that really, I guess, could be the cause. In the matches prior, before we won back-to-back matches, we were winless in, I don't know how many exactly, but we were on a really poor run of form. That was loads of injuries, which is very easy to say for any team. I mean, when you're without your star players, you do struggle. But the matches against Plymouth and Luton, they were just, as already said, it's amazing to think that this team hasn't won in 3 when that is exactly what they're capable of. But then you can sort of counter argue it with Plymouth are really struggling under Rooney, and then Luton are really struggling as well. But still, at the end of the day, you've got to go out and put a performance in, and Norwich did it. 10 goals in 2 matches is amazing. But I just don't know. I think it could just be down to maybe there's some issues behind the scenes that maybe are affecting people a bit too much, and some negative thoughts are coming into fruition. It's a very sort of difficult one, because, of course, no one apart from the people behind the scenes know, and it does seem bizarre that this team are falling off. But it's just, teams go through rough patches, and unfortunately for myself and Norwich fans, we're going through one right now, and all we can do is hope that it gets better.
Touch on the away form before, and like, it's not drastic. You're not like bottom of the form table with away games, but you've only won 2, which doesn't mean you're nowhere near the top of it either. Whereas at home, I've watched a few Norwich games at home, and take the Burnley game out of it, you've been relatively strong. Are Norwich a worse team away from home than they are at home, or is that a stupid question?
No, by far. We are away from home. This team looks like a completely different side. It's really concerning. Even last season, I want to say it was either 7 or 8 wins away from home in 23 matches, which is amazing. It's amazing, because you look at how Norwich, before they played Bristol City at home this season, only about a month ago or 2 months, they were a year at home. They were a year unbeaten at home. Which, you look at that home form they had over the second half of the season, and then you compare it with the away form. It's mainly down to why Norwich ended up finishing 6th, because their home form was immense, but away from home that they had lower mid-table, almost relegation form away from home, and we still do. And I have no idea why this is still such a major issue. I think I saw something, when you compare it to a lot of other teams in the league, not that many have won too much more than Norwich have away from home, which is nice, but to still only have 2 wins from 11 away matches and losing 5 of them, it's almost a 50% loss rate away from home. So effectively, you can almost toss a coin, and it will decide if Norwich will lose away at home, or they'll win away avoid defeat rather. But it's baffling. This team away from home, they cannot seem to get anything right, regardless of who they play or how they play. It just seems bizarre. The away wins we've had this season were phenomenal. Coventry away, our first win was amazing. Really, we were so dogged and determined in the game, and we fought for everything throughout the match, and that's why we won. We just kept going and kept going, and then Derby away, Borja Sainz scored a hat trick, and that pretty much bailed us out. And two of our goals, the ball was probably off the pitch, and then but it doesn't matter. We ended up winning the game, and it's swings and roundabouts and whatnot. But still, in that match, Norwich had to rely on an individual's brilliance to effectively win them the game. But no, it's just the way. I just don't understand it. Again, that's something that only the people behind the scenes will know, and there may be something going on in the players' minds there. But from the outside looking in, it's so difficult to understand, because this team are more than capable of winning matches, and they prove it time and again, even through this season and last. But it's for some reason, when they're on their travels, they just really, really struggle. And at a place like the Stadium of Light, which will have 30,000 fans in it, all absolutely raucous and wanting their team to win and spur them on in a great start, that will really, really trouble Norwich. And again, it's why I worry that this really could be almost a bit of a battering, if you will, because in terms of how passionate Sunderland fans can be and get their team up for a game, I think our players will really, really struggle with that.
I wanted to ask you about the manager. So last year I had two different guests on at different times in the season. And when the conversation of David Wagner came up, it was not massively positive. It wasn't the worst, but I wouldn't say they were confident that the man could take them towards the playoffs. He did do that. You got the playoffs, but you're blown away by Leeds in the semi-final. So you decide to part ways with him. You bring in this new guy at the helm, Johannes Hoff-Thorup. He is 12th in the league. Look, it's the middle of the table. It's a tight league. There's no reason to say you won't get you in the playoffs. There's no reason to say you won't get relegated. It's that kind of league. But what have you made of his first few months of his reign? What type of manager is he? And most importantly, are you better off under Thorup than you are David Wagner?
It's a very, very good question. And I think a lot of people would probably they most likely give you the same answer as I am. I think Norwich are better off. I think we are trying to establish a playing identity. That was the big thing that many fans under Wagner said that Norwich didn't have. They didn't have a style of play that was clear, and they were, they arguably were relying on a lot of individuals' brilliance, and of the likes of Gabriel Sara, Jonathan Rowe, Josh Sargent, who, two of those have left, one of them's injured. So instantly Norwich are, when you take them out of the side and what Norwich have now, yes, I think I would say we are better off, despite where we are in the league table. This is still a new project with a new manager and a new sporting director and even a new owner, who are all trying to work together and get something going. The whole point of Thorup being here is his 3 years at the club, a 3-year plan, get in the Premier League. That's what the plan is. And I think he's, of course, a very young manager. He's not even 40 years old. It's only once the new year starts, it's only his second ever year as a first team coach. So it's still a lot of inexperience there, but he's got a very clear identity in the way he wants to play. He hasn't got the favoured personnel still yet. I mean, Shane Duffy is arguably Norwich's one of their best starting centre halves. They still have the likes of Ashley Barnes on the books and a lot of players who are ageing and are on good money. So I think, of course, we are halfway through the season pretty much, and Norwich 12th in the table. I think a lot of fans before the season maybe would have predicted Norwich to finish there. I said that we would finish 9th in the league. So I think that anyone there's been calls and there's been criticism, which can be fair at this stage. Norwich fans maybe are a bit expectant because we've been this superpower in this league before. But no, I think under Thorup we are better off than what we had with Wagner, because I think you can tell what the plan is. It's just it will take its time. It took Daniel Farker a whole season and 3 transfer windows, even 4, to get the team he really wanted. And look what ended up with him. Norwich won back-to-back championship titles. Not to say that that's what Thorup may go and do, because that really would be something. But no, I think under his leadership, I think Norwich are better off, because you can see what they're trying to do. And once they get everyone that can do it well for them, there's no reason why this team can't go on and achieve very good things.
Player I'm really interested in. I don't know whether the fans will be. I think there might be, but we had a young lad who was 17, signed him in League One from Manchester City, Callum Doyle. He had a really bright start, and if I'm completely honest with you, he got burnt out towards the end because he was literally 17. Even though he looked like he was 45 at the time, he was a kid. He was Justin Bieber with Paul Butler's body shape. But like, so since then, he's gone on to Coventry, got in the playoffs, got beaten in the final of the playoffs. Then he went to Leicester, wins the league last year with Leicester. He's kind of been in promotion races every single year that he's left Sunderland, including a promotion race with Sunderland. Now, I've noticed he's playing more like a left back or left-sided centre half if you play back three, or he can play in the centre half, which he was predominantly for us in the back four. He could fit on the left-hand side with three if we really needed to. But he's 3 or 4 years on from that. When we first saw him, we thought, that's a player that could be playing for England in 4 or 5 years' time. Yes, he kind of faltered a little bit towards the end, but you could see the qualities he had, and he's obviously been picked up by big clubs that have promotion ambitions. How have Norwich fans taken to him?
We've taken to him very well, especially at the start of the season. We had when we had that really good run in September to October. He even scored against Watford, really nice goal. But no, he's just a superb player. I think he could be a future England one. He is very, very good. And again, versatile in defence. Norwich usually start him as a left back, but he will play as a left-sided centre half into three when Norwich are in possession. And maybe he hasn't got too much pace to be a fullback, but when he even played at centre half naturally, again, has been phenomenal. He is a very, very good defender, and he suits the play style Johannes Oftorp wants. He wants a ball playing defender who can be versatile and is an intelligent player, and he very much is. I think that a lot of Norwich fans really like him. Yes, maybe along with the side itself, yes, they are slumping down the table, and maybe his performance levels haven't been as high as they were. Maybe again set the bar too high with some phenomenal performances and pretty much being a man and a match contender every game. But no, I think he is a superb player. You can see why he has ended up in sides that, and of course, maybe not the sole reason, but you can see why he's in teams that are fighting for promotion and why he was at teams that were getting trophies. Well, with Leicester winning a trophy anyway, albeit he got injured and only played about half the season. But no, he's a very, very good player. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him at a Premier League side. When we signed him, I was very surprised he wasn't making a Premier League loan move. I'll put it that way, and has got a very high ceiling in the rest of his a very short career so far, I guess.
He's only 21, isn't he? We got him when he was 17. I've seen him on his debut in a pre-season game at Hearts, which only had 2,000 fans, but living up here, I got to see him, and he was enormous. But he had like this childlike face, and he started really well for us. And like I say, he burnt out and it didn't really work. But if you look through his honours list already, he's not long turned 21. So in the playoffs with us, although he didn't really do much in the actual playoff campaign itself, he did play a lot of games. I think 36 games in the season. He then goes to Coventry, plays most of the season, if not all of the season, gets him into the playoffs, plays 21 games at Leicester, gets enough games in at the end, wins the league with them. I think he's already at 20-ish games with yourself, and he's won the Under-19 European Championship. He's set up to have a really successful career at a level above what he's playing at the moment, and it seems like every club he goes to, people do like him.
Yeah. No, they do, and I think that is fantastic for a young player as well. Who, of course, he's not settling in at a parent club, of course, because Manchester City, despite the fact they're in very poor form at the moment, it's going to be difficult for him to get in that side. And whenever he's gone away, he's evidently grabbed the ball by the horns, and he does everything he can to play at a high level. So he should be what I think a lot of younger players should look to, regardless of the position they play, and just try and replicate what he can do, because again, he's already so successful, and he's probably got about 15 years left of playing if all goes well for him. So no, he's a very, very strong, good player that I expect to be a regular Premier League player in a few years.
Yeah, I do as well, actually. I think I rate him highly. I think when he was with us, like I say, a kid, he's going to have inconsistency at the age of 17, at the age of 21, though he's kind of ironing them out, and you can see it with the teams he's been at. But look, you made quite a few changes in the window, as it tends to happen when you're in, I don't want to say rebuild, but I think Norwich's season, from the outside looking in, looks like you're going to take a step back to be able to go forward on a more For a long time, you were up and down, up and down, up and down. It was the kind of 24th best team in England kind of situation. I think you've taken that step back with a new manager to kind of change or like hone a brand of style where you might be 10th to 12th this season, but in the years to come, you might be able to sustain a promotion charge and then stay there. And at the start of that rebuild, if you prefer, you always have that big change in the player turnover. You bring players in, you take them out. Callum, Doyle, we've discussed, but you brought in a lot of players. Who's impressed you most outside of Doyle, and who's been the kind of standout signings?
Again, a very, very good question, because there has been a lot of them, and well, sort of apart from Doyle, none of them have really sort of, well, apart from a few, maybe have sort of become like they start every game and they're standout performers every single week. I think for me, the strongest one has been Anis Ben Slimane on loan from Sheffield United. We have the option to buy him as well, and I would gladly snap off anyone's hand to make that permanent now. I think he adds what Norwich have needed in midfield for years. Just someone physical who isn't afraid to step in a tackle, make a 50-50, and just strong, a strong midfielder who will not shy away from danger, and he's very, very good at that. I think he's relentless. He continues running, he presses well, and he's always going in for challenges. He's trying to set up his teammates. I think his debut against Coventry really summed him up perfectly. He came on the pitch at half time and he just battled the entire half. He did everything he could to help his team win, and we ended up winning that match, and he still showcases it. I think he has been beyond exceptional since his arrival, and I think he very much makes a case for being our signing of the season. The others have got on okay. I mean, Ante Sirnats has scored a few goals, but Norwich did spend a lot of money on him, and his form is sort of in and out at the moment. And, there's been criticism, myself included, and I've held my hands up after a good run of form and maybe perhaps was too harsh. But the others who've sort of come in, Ben Crescene, a young left back, he's not really played all that much. There's Forsen Amankwa came in from the Austrian league. He's not set the world alight really, but you can see there's a chance of a player being in there who just needs a bit more time to be fully unlocked. There's a young lad, Oscar Svartal, Danish. He's got a lot of potential, just 18 years old, and he very much sky's the limit. But no, to answer that question, I would say Slimane, and I would not be surprised that regardless of what happens with Norwich this season, they'll be taking him off Sheffield United's hands, because he is a phenomenal player who he is exactly what we've needed for a very long time.
How's Marcondes getting on? And I know that's a bit of a strange question for such a random player, but I interviewed him last year, and it's one of the funniest, most bizarre interviews I've had. I spoke to him for people who are unaware of his career trajectory. He played at Bournemouth, did really well, then got a lot of injuries and ended up going on loan to Hibs to try and get himself back to form and back to fitness, which he did. He's now gone to Norwich, but I think it was his debut he made against Rangers, and he's in the press room afterwards. And someone said, look, what's the move? What do you want to achieve from the move to Hibs? And he says, well, I was speaking to my agent the other day, and I said, I haven't played for a long time. And my agent said, what you need to be is a pasta dish. You need to warm yourself up slowly. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is he on about? So has he warmed up for Norwich, or is he still a little bit lukewarm?
No, he's warmed up. He's definitely warmed up. No, he's coming out of the microwave. He's piping hot, and he's doing the business. Just if you need someone alongside him to be the garlic flatbread or the garlic baguette or something like that. If we're going to use that analogy, but no, he's been very good. He did start off cold, and like that analogy, it's perfect really for his Norwich career. He's been a lot better in recent matches, and as a free agent signing, watching him on a frequent basis, I do ponder how he didn't get a team earlier. But no, he came on there was a Radio Norfolk weekly fanzine show they do, and he spoke about sort of some personal issues he's had, and maybe that's why he didn't get a club, or maybe he wasn't so eager to play football again, just get himself in the right headspace. But he's been a very good player. He's impressed me. I think he's another player that you can see to why he played at a very good level in the Championship with Bournemouth and Brentford, and ended up being promoted with both of them. Maybe didn't do so well in the Premier League, but he is a very good player, very technically gifted, very smart player who can link the attacking phases really well. And in that sort of number 10 role, he's a fine player. I think it was at Portsmouth. I was at the game at Fratton Park. He got the ball on the halfway line, just did this acrobatic scissor kick pass that went about 30 yards up the pitch, and luckily it found a Norwich player. But he's got a lot of flair about him. I think he's a very intricate player who is good. I think he's sort of entering the prime years of his career. I think the move has worked well, and it was only for this season. There's the option to extend it, and again, wouldn't be surprised if Norwich decided to do that, because he's come into the team and he's become a regular, and he's very much improving still week in and week out. And no, I think that move has worked very well for both parties.
He's a proper character, and I've only met him the once, but really funny, and I'm pleased that he's warming up with his pasta dish, but I hope that he's freezing cold on Saturday and potentially gives himself food poisoning. No offence. Looking at Sunderland, look, the past few weeks we've been talking about draws and like a run of draws without actually losing that many games. As it is, we've kind of like we've kick-started stuff. It was a big result on Saturdays. I think Sunderland fans all know. We're currently fourth. We've won 2 of our last 3. We've just come back from 2-0 down. We're just 2 points off the automatic promotion spots, just behind the mighty Leeds, who are, so mighty. I feel like a lot of people thought we were going to drop off, and there's like a 10-game-ish period where we didn't win many games, didn't lose many, but didn't win many. And ultimately, you need to win games to get promoted. But we've kind of pulled that back. We're right up there with the rest of them. I know a lot of people have been surprised by Sunderland's start of the season, but how surprised have you been by it? And do you think it's sustainable for us?
I'm part of the group who thought that you would drop off, because it seems to me that when a side like that usually has a start like that, and of course when you compare Sunderland's side maybe to the other teams up there at the top end of the table, you could make an argument that it is a worse side, but it is still a very young team who have got a lot of potential. I think, just the names springing to mind, Mundell, Bellingham and Rigg straight away, even Mayenda as well, who just, so many names are still coming to my head just as I'm talking about this team. So it's got such a high ceiling, and they're performing already as if that they've reached it and they're in their prime years. They're all very mature, and they're a very strong team. They're a very great cohesive unit, at least from what I can tell from the outside looking in. I haven't really watched Sunderland. Well, I haven't watched Sunderland at all this season, so I can only take it for what I see in results and statistics and highlights. But it just seems Reggie Labrie, a manager who at the end of his time in League One before he came to Sunderland, was really, really struggling, and he's come to the Championship and he's brought his own style of play, and it's been phenomenal. I've been so surprised by this Sunderland side, and I think it is sustainable right now. I think that should be, promotion is always the ambition of any team before the start of the season. But for a side who were in the playoffs 2 seasons ago, arguably that side was better than what Sunderland have now, because there were players who were doing really well. Well, Amad Diallo straight away, and there was also for Ross Stewart, even though he ended up moving on and got injured a lot as a Sunderland player, but whenever he played was top notch. So no, I think it is sustainable, because this team has proved that it can be a contender for a top end in the Championship and maybe get to the Premier League. And even if it doesn't happen this year, they all have so many years ahead of them, and they're a big club who have got a lot of ambition, get a lot of fans every week. Can't imagine they want to leave anytime soon, and they can continue their playing careers. And who knows, if it isn't this year, why couldn't it be next year with another full season for Reggie Labrie? So no, I'm very surprised, but I think it is sustainable for Sunderland at the moment, because they are absolutely flying.
Yeah, I hope it continues, because I'm enjoying it. It's really nice. But you did mention Diallo there, and I got a little twang in my heart, unfortunately. It doesn't look like he's going to come back anytime soon, sadly. I love asking this question recently, and I've been keeping my own little tally of who people have answered. And there is a leader at the moment. If everyone listens every week, which you probably don't, you might, I don't know, I don't care. You will know who's top of the table on this. But if you could take one player from Sunderland's squad and put it into Norwich's team, it doesn't need to be our best player, just a player you think that would fit into Norwich's style of football or a position needs strengthening. Who would you take, and why would you take him?
Another fantastic question, because there's so many. I can think. Well, I named four of them straight away of top players, and I'd take any single one of those at the moment. I think for me, it's a very difficult one because I'm just trying to think of all the positions we have and sort of who gets in there and who would probably start a lot. I think Regan and Bellingham are obviously top players, but we don't necessarily play with a number 10 behind a striker. But I think, well, we've got Sargent as, well, he's injured at the moment. Sienats has provided competition, but no, I think probably just for his, I guess his relentlessness and the talent, and well, I think I would probably go with Joe Bellingham. I think, of course, a top player. He's a great player, and a very very smart player for such a young age, and brings a lot to the table. A bit of versatility within midfield, so a really attacking mind, and no, I really like him. But I like so many of Sunderland's players, but that's a difficult question personally, I think, because there's so many top ones you can pick there. But no, I'd probably go with Job. I think he's a very talented player, but I'd pick a lot of different Sunderland players, but I think he just about edges it.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I've got a special question for you before I ask for your predictions, actually. It's just registered in my brain that during his nomadic career before he came to Sunderland and settled down, and he spent 3 years here now, and I love him, and some fans are not sure. I adore him. I think a lot of other people adore him. Would you take back Patrick Roberts based on your experience of him at Norwich? Because I know that he was nomadics and didn't do much, and then he came to Sunderland, and I think the majority of us really like him.
No, nice. Again, no, it is interesting seeing how that worked for Roberts. We had him in the first Premier League year with Daniel Farker. Just didn't work. Wasn't playing. I think it didn't help that Emi Buendia was the same position, and Emi Buendia was a fantastic player. Yeah, no, he was. Yeah, he was.
Quite
I think, yeah, quite good. Maybe he's underdoing it, mate. Well, no, I don't know. No, it doesn't help that Roberts played was in that same position, and Buendia was always going to start. So I think whenever he did play, yes, didn't do too much, didn't look like much of a threat, but didn't get much game time. And obviously, hindsight is one of the best things in the world, and I can very much easily say, well, of course I'll take Roberts now. Look how he's doing outside of Norwich. Why wouldn't I take him? But if it's solely based on what I saw in a yellow and green shirt and the years gone by, I probably wouldn't. I don't think he really fit in the style Norwich have now. I think he's a bit of a different player than what Norwich look for on the right hand side. We arguably do need another right winger, so maybe I would take him for that because he's quality now. But if I'm basing it for what I saw from him before, I don't think I'd have Roberts back personally. But no, again, another player who has gone on and he's done really good things in a Sunderland shirt. So no, credit to him from coming back from that bit of a setback and playing for a top side.
Love him. I love him. People know this. Prediction time. I've done better than I expected this season, and I do feel confident. I feel like sans a result here or there, we tend to do pretty well against Norwich at home in my kind of really poor memory. We won last year. Norwich not performing very well at all at the moment in terms of the form. Not doing brilliantly well away from home, as we've touched on. We've just had a big win. I feel like it's got a closer game than maybe anticipated, but 2-1 about it, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's going to be very tough for this Norwich side, as we've already covered. Away from home, they're just a shambles. They are. I think 2-1 is probably what I'd agree with that. I think it could be tight. I think we've got the individuals to cause issues, but Sunderland have got the exact same, and they're fourth in the league. So there's no doubt it'll be a game. I think I'd like to think a lot of high interest. Two new coaches who are still very much establishing their style of play. One is doing significantly better than the other, I think it's fair to say. But no, I think it could be a tight one. I very much look forward to it. But with our away form, and we're just not doing well at this moment in time. And yes, our record against Sunderland away hasn't been too good as of late. I think that I can definitely see Sunderland coming out on top. But 2-1, I think I think it's an easy scoreline to go for. It's the most common one in football, so why not? I'll agree with you.
Well, I said 0-0 last week, and it was 3-2, so maybe I should not do predictions. I said I've been doing better, but I did terribly last week. But Freddie, my cat is crying, and that means that it's the end of the podcast, unfortunately for me. But thanks very much for joining. Lovely to chat. You're always good to have a new debutant on there. Hope you have a horrendous Saturday and have an awful weekend. But after that, have a great Christmas, mate.
No, that's very well. Yeah, no, you saved it. That's very, very kind. No, I hope you have a good Christmas as well. And I hope that cat isn't the only cat crying at the weekend. I wanted all the black cats. I want them sobbing, but something tells me I won't get it. But no, lovely to be here. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So no, I look forward to listening back to it after we're recording it here. But no, it's been very, very nice. No, very kind of you to ask for me to come on though. But really appreciate it.
I set that up, that joke, didn't I? Shit. Oh, well, damn.
Yeah, you might have done, yeah.
Yeah, I did, mate. I did.
Hello, we are the Sunderland boys. And if you are a Magpie fan, surrender or you'll die. We all follow the Sunderland. Hello, we are the Sunderland boys. Hello, we are the Sunderland boys. And if you are a Magpie fan, surrender or you'll die. We all follow the Sunderland. We all follow the Sunderland.